Welcome to Be Hero Fights. I'm Tom.
And I'm Brian.
And we're here to discuss
or fuss
over two hotly debated, highly related topics.
So last year, we talked about a bunch of different things from all kinds of things. But due to a bunch of different reasons and problems, as well as our own sanity, we need to take a little bit of time off. So we took off pretty much all of December and part of November. For more of that, I'm going to actually let Tom explain his reason for it. But we've also been trying to grow Be Hero as a company more. So we've been expanding into other things. So coming soon, you'll be able to see some of those new things we'll be doing. Stay tuned to our Facebook, Instagram, as well as on BeHeroMedia.com to see all of that.
Yeah,
Tom,
exactly.
Why were we not here?
Well, first off, a couple things. We are changing the show a little bit. Traditionally, it was very much just centered around debates. We started doing interviews a little bit, but we're actually going to be changing the name of the podcast. Instead of Be Hero Fights, we're going to be switching it over to just Be Hero Media. And part of that is because while the debates are awesome and we really enjoy doing them, it does take a lot of scheduling, especially to bring on guests from other podcasts, other shows, other ventures of life. And it got to be very taxing. And we wanted to have a little bit more of the freedom to just jump on and talk to you guys and still be able to debate if we want, but more debate amongst ourselves. So we're going to put a lot less emphasis on who wins. There will still be some episodes where we have a big epic tournament battles, and we will determine a winner. But for the most part, the debates are going to be discussions where we talk about both sides of the issue and try and just draw our own conclusions. And there will still be interviews, and we actually have more show ideas that we're bringing as well. But it's all going to be centered under this one hub that we are now switching to Be Hero Media. The last couple months have just been crazy. As if the holidays aren't enough. I, back in August, had a severe back injury that just kept getting worse. And by the time October rolled around, I could barely even function as a human being. It was the worst pain that I've ever been in my entire life. I've been through quite the ringer there. I'm finally coming back around. I'm feeling much better. Thank you for those that have reached out and support. Doing a lot better now. But like Brian said, with everything going on, we really, for our sanity's sake and for my both physical and mental health, I needed a break. But I think we are both finally ready to come back around and really just kind of have a little more fun with this, keep it a little bit more simple and not try to over push ourselves.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I live my life in a state of always doing something, as anybody who knows me knows. So having that month and a half or so being able to have time to myself allowed me to refresh my cells, as it were, which, and I know for me was great. I know Tom with his hospital stuff has been a hard time, not to mention, homie got a new job. So he had to deal with all that stuff. We no longer work together.
I'm so lonely.
As you should be, sir. As you should be. Oh, man. With your 2020 chic over there. Button on top, sweats on the bottom.
Yep.
And
I'm sure everyone back at the office misses all of my ridiculous banter. Coming in every Monday, like, everyone turns around, all right, what shenanigans did he get into? All of them.
Well, I mean, you were the single guy that actually went and did things, unlike the rest of our team.
That's true.
So, but with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and do our discussion portion of our format now. We'll be going through a couple different things for the format, as well as our schedule for when we get these out is going to change slightly. We won't be dedicatedly having an episode out every week. We're going to try to do as many as we can during the month, but it may not be every week. So please stay tuned with us. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so you know when we come on here on YouTube, as well as subscribe to us on our social media, such as
Facebook.com/BeHeroMedia, Instagram.com/BeHeroMedia,
on Twitter at Be Hero Media, as well as everything that is Be Hero Media at BeHeroMedia.com. Now, we'll let you guys know when we drop new things, as well as we're always constantly doing stuff on our social medias with our Facebook and Instagrams of questions and memes and everything else, as well as letting you know when we're on with our other stuff, such as Heroes Play or the new episodes of our future podcast, The Bump Card comes out, or The Return of She-Rose. All of that will be there on those. But with that being said, a couple weeks ago, an event happened. A fantastic
Notable
event. An event that is over $1 billion now, right? Second to third biggest opening of all time for a movie, to depend on whether it was domestic or international, right behind its, siblings of Endgame and Infinity War. And of course, we're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home.
That's right. Both of us having the chance to see it. We haven't actually talked to each other about this yet because, as we said earlier, we don't work together anymore.
Nope.
We haven't had the chance, but we are excited. We wanted to bring this up as a topic for discussion, and this is going to be somewhat of a debate. I loved this movie. Brian, what are your just brief 5-second thoughts?
Well, I actually went over that already in the Heroes Play right after I watched it. So if you guys go back here on YouTube, you can see that. It would be the one that says Warzone and Spider-Man review. And it was a spoiler-free review, which, of course, as we go into talking about this, we will probably be spoiling things. It's really hard to not talk about it without spoiling it. So, spoiler warning.
We'll try not to go too crazy, but yes, spoiler warning.
Yeah. If you want my spoiler-free review, go watch it on Heroes Play, as well as watch my first win on the new map on Warzone. First win on that. I was super happy on the new map.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that being said, I am a Spider-Man fanatic. Depending on the day, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero between him, Deadpool, and the Flash. I've got a thing about red, if you can't tell. But I loved the ever-living snot out of this movie. It was everything I wanted and more. My wife, who was with me, was laughing at me the whole time. In fact, she called me out after. She's like, "I think you cried more in that movie than I did." And I probably did. It's
a tearjerker. It was a good
really
movie.
Good.
Just to kind of mirror some of that. Also, huge Spider-Man fan. In fact, so I didn't have my kids for Christmas. I did have them for Christmas Eve in the morning. And we were not visited in my house by Santa, but we were visited by Spider-Man. And both of my kids got a gift from Spider-Man. You will see images of that coming up in the future. They were both very ecstatic about that. But yeah, huge Spider-Man fan. And naturally, I was very excited for this movie. I've been a huge fan of the MCU. There have been very few things that I feel like that the movies have done wrong. They haven't all been perfect, by no means. So while I was very excited for this movie, I was skeptical, and especially when Kevin Feige came out and said, "Hey, you guys are getting your hopes up way too high." In fact, that might have been the best thing that he did, is to tell everyone to tone it the frick down, because when he said that, I did. Because I had my expectations and I had what I wanted to happen, but by him saying that, I was able to just calm down and appreciate the movie, expecting way less because of what he did. And being blown away. I loved everything about this movie. It blew me out of the water. It was everything that I wanted from a Spider-Man movie. And that being said, though, there are a couple things that I wanted to talk about as the devil's advocate for today's topic. I want to talk about why this movie might not hold up in the future. By no means do I think this is a bad movie. I don't even necessarily think they did anything wrong. I think they did an amazing job with everything that was given to them. In fact, it blew my expectations out of the water. But I do wonder if this is going to hold up 5-10 years from now. So let's kind of get into it, Brian.
All right. Well, let's just go over this real fast of what this Spider-Man is. We're going to try and not be heavy on the spoilers. So we don't want you to, in case you still continue listening on after the spoiler warning, we're going to kind of try and tone it down on the spoilers as best we can. That being said, this movie is actually based off a actually disliked Spider-Man run known as One More Day. That was done, which in the comic, essentially what happens is Aunt May is injured in the battle and is dying. And Spider-Man goes to Doctor Strange to see, after trying to go through all the medicine and everything else, trying to see if there's something he could do. And he tells him no. Like, originally he was going to do it, and he's like, no, I can't. We just can't. It's her time, kind of thing. And then eventually he meets this little girl who's willing to make a deal with him, who turns out to be Mephisto. Now, we're not going to go, new rock stars and totally blame Mephisto for everything. But what I am going to say is it does have a change to it. Now, this also has an aspect of another run that they did that I'm trying to remember the name of. It's kind of the Redcon for One More Day, but essentially what happens in, I'm jumping ahead. One More Day, the price for this little girl who turns out to be Mephisto to do this for Aunt May is for everything that happened between Peter and Mary Jane, them being together, their marriage, their love, and everything else to be gone. He had one more day left with her, and that's it. After that, they are no longer together. Now, Redcon that, this other one, which happens after the original Civil War comic book run, where Peter comes out as Spider-Man to everybody. In this other one, he does make a deal with Doctor Strange, and in doing so, of putting his identity back in the bottle, they essentially, everyone forgets Peter Parker's Spider-Man, and it's everybody. So, with all that being said, I think that they did a really good way of not only mixing both of those together, but also tying it so well to how everything went through all three of the trilogies, where you start off with someone who's learning about his responsibility to someone who's recognizing he has to step up now that he has the power and has to be the next key hero, to someone that has to go and figure out what that means, what the sacrifice means to being that hero. So I think that these as a core three are great. Lastly, well, two things more. Lastly, the thing you said about going in with Kevin Feige saying, chill on your expectations. I actually do that in every movie I go to. Even though I am excited for things and excited to see things or whatnot, there are aspects I will, or when I go into a movie, I purposely, as the last of the pre-roll runs and they're actually going into the feature presentation and we're going through all the opening credits, I take a breath, clear my mind, and just let the movie happen to me, whatever the movie is. That way I don't have my own expectations ruin a movie for me, which you and I have talked about before, and I have given you crap for because you do that a lot.
Debatable. But
the most important thing that I found for myself on this movie actually has nothing to do with the movie. It's actually after the movie, after I leave the theater, I'm in the car with my wife, and I came to a realization. My theater was packed, stupid packed. It took almost an act of God for me to get tickets for me, my wife, my best friend, his wife, to go see this movie on Friday, the week it came out. And it was insane how many people were there, not to mention people's reactions to things, people yelling and clapping and screaming when a couple of notable people, for all three notable people that the people were hoping to see showed up. People were screaming, clapping, which for some people took it out of the movie. For me, it felt warm to have that. And then leaving the theater, how packed it was, trying to go to the bathroom on the walkout, trying to get to my car, leaving the theater parking lot. I looked at my wife and I'm like, this feels normal. After almost 2 years of craziness, we're back to something that feels normal.
Yeah.
And I don't know how your viewing of it was, but for me, it was insane to feel like that. It felt pre-2020 to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely mirror a lot of that. And just to kind of touch a little bit on, what Kevin Feige said, there was something that he, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but everyone kind of already knew what was going to happen. And he came out and said, don't expect that. And he said more, but he's just like, don't have any expectations. Don't act like what's going to happen. Please just let the movie happen. Settle down. And I think by him doing that, when certain things happened that confirmed a lot of people's hopes and visions for this movie, dreams for this movie, it made it very impactful. Without getting too much more into that, though, because if you know, you know, and if you don't, go watch it.
Either way, go watch the movie. Go watch it 2, 3, 4 more times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely am going to watch it again. An incredible movie. One of the best MCU movies to date, easily. Top 3 for sure. That being said, though, I'm, as I said before, I'm taking the devil's advocate point of view here. Here's why I don't think this movie is going to hold up. And what I'm going to talk about is not anything that was unknown from the trailers. So with this movie, we were reintroduced to villains that we knew throughout the 2 previous Spider-Man franchises, which, you know, both of them have their hits and misses. I actually was a big fan of both franchises. I don't really have any problems with either of them, but well, I guess the original Spider-Man 3.
I was even fine with that one. I mean,
it could have been that was the only one that I was admittedly disappointed in when I saw it. But I know most people were disappointed in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I wasn't. I loved that one. So, you know, everyone's going to be a little bit different on what they liked and didn't like. But this movie is not going to hold up. And the reason why is because it holds up perfectly now because of that hype, because everyone that we all know grew up with the 2 original franchises and with the MCU. So we were all already aware of all the villains, everything that happened leading up to this point. Now, here's what I see happening within the next 5 to 10 years. Kids that are going to be introduced, admittedly, by us, right? We're going to be showing this movie to our kids, probably younger than the ones that just got to see it, but we're going to be showing this to younger kids who will have not had the time to watch 30 plus movies of Spider-Man and MCU. And they're not going to know who these villains are. And the thing is, there is 0 character development with these villains. None. It expects you to already know everything from the previous 2 franchises that are not necessarily canon. They are now because of this movie, but also not. You know what I mean? Like, so with 0 character development for 5 huge Spider-Man villains, not to mention other cameo appearances from a Netflix show, for goodness sake, right? Which, don't get me wrong, was an amazing cameo, and I loved it. It tickled me pink, absolutely. But again, I think these are things that are going to work for audiences now. But the problem that you pigeonhole yourself into by doing that is you lose, I guess, not really rewatchability, but you reduce introductibility to future generations who are not going to have the time or the patience or the care to go back and catch it.
I disagree with that to an aspect. I mean, I think one of the strengths of this movie was it did not lean on having to do character like backstory. So you can't say character development because some of the characters did have development. I would hazard to say that Goblin had more development in this than he did in the original movies. I would say that Doc Ock had great development in this.
Only because you knew what happened,
even
though.
But that's the thing, is that's not development, that's backstory, which I'll agree with you. They don't spend time, but like I said, I think that's a bonus. I think that's something great that they did where they don't spend that time. They could have easily done it and then blown 2-hour and 38-minute movie into something bigger or taken away scenes that were needed for the story of this. But I also think that this is kind of the Marvel way. And it's not just in the movies. I think one of the greatest aspects of this was it was a Marvel comic. There are a lot of times. And a great example is, like I was talking about in One More Day, in One More Day, there are a bunch of different things that happen, including finding out who Mephisto is. Because they don't out and out say, Mephisto's backstory in the comics. You had to know it. You had to know who the big bad was in One More Day. They do that in this as well. You would have to know. And saying that you have to put in that time and things like that, is also like saying that you have to deal with every Marvel movie, right? You can't watch Endgame and not have to go back and watch the other 20 plus movies. You can't even watch Infinity War with doing that. You can't really do much for watching anything in the Marvel ones without starting in one. Even a great example in the Incredible Hulk movie that came out with Ed Norton, right? You watch that all the way through. You get to the cameo at the end. The cameo at the end is Robert Downey Jr., who's nowhere in the movie, right? As Iron Man. And he calls him Stark, but that's the extent of it. Like, you don't know the backstory of what's going on. And that's the second movie in the Marvel Universe, right after Iron Man. So saying that you have to put this time and effort in, that is the Marvel way. You kind of go in watching a Marvel movie knowing you kind of have to know what's going on.
No, because when that after credits cameo with Robert Downey Jr. happened, there was an entire movie explaining who Robert Downey Jr. was, who Iron Man is.
Yeah, and then there's 5 movies explaining all the villains.
Right,
and
but
then this one.
And again, there's a point. There's a difference between a cameo and a key character of the story. That after credits scene in the Incredible Hulk had nothing to do with the story. Here is the thing: is like Green Goblin and Doc Ock. They backtracked those characters and then their story arc is to get them back to where they died in the first place. Sandman just stayed. He was the same during the original to this. Like, nothing changed about him. There was no character arc, no development. Electro probably had the most development out of all of them because he had a new body and everyone was like, how come he's not bald now? And there's a 2-second explanation on why he's not. Like, and Lizard definitely digressed. Like, nothing really made sense for any of these characters. They didn't even make sense necessarily in the continuity that they originated from. It was just like, okay, I'm gonna buy it. I'm just gonna buy it because this is the story that they're telling, and they're villains, and Green Goblin is Marvel's Joker to begin with, so he's capable of anything. And yeah, I guess Doc Ock is controlled by his tentacle arms, and now he's in a new universe. Who knows how he's gonna act? Like, I don't know. Again, I think there's a lot of presumptions that are made that just take so much. And yes, you're right. Much like a comic book, this happens all the time in a comic book. However, people that read comic books are a much more niche crowd and audience. And this is why I say that this is not going to hold up nearly as well, because we're in the biggest medium. And we are now requiring people to catch up on a lot more source material than you would from a comic.
Not really. Again, like with a comic book comic books are actually in a golden age right now for sales for them because of how well Marvel's been doing, and DC and to its own aspect, and all of these other ones like Image and IDW and everything else that have all these comic books and superhero spin-off shows and things like that. So comic books are flourishing. So there's a ton more people out there doing comic books. But that being said, there are aspects, yes, I'll agree with you, like Electro and Sandman, to a point of trying to figure out what moment happened. Like when Doc Ock dies in Spider-Man 2, he's already redeemed, right? So it's obviously not the moment he dies, but the moment before that, when he was still under the control. For Electro, it's the moment after, based off of what they said in there, it's the moment after Gwen Stacy has flipped the switch and put him back into the electrical grid and caused his body to disapart all of his electrical molecules. So they don't kill him per se, but they separate him. So it's some point after that where he reconstitutes, and he reconstitutes into the version of Jamie Foxx we've seen. With the Lizard, it's before he gets changed back, which based on the sound of it, it sounds like it's before he even kills Officer Stacy or Captain Stacy. And with Sandman's the hardest one to pick out because Sandman's character arc in the original Spider-Man 3 that they did with him doesn't have a huge arc in general. He's kind of just muddles around and grunts. Yeah. Which is a fault to that thing. And really the whole aspect is he does one thing simply. He wants to get money to save his daughter. Right. And that's the whole aspect. He wants to see his daughter. And they do that through here. So they're not really getting character development. They're just kind of keeping that character intact as he was. So I'll agree with you on Sandman, but the other ones, and even to Electro to a little aspect, but like the other ones, it's like it's all relative to the moment in time. I also think that on certain aspects, like Electro, they were able to redeem a lot of things that people dislike so much about it. Which, if I had a fault with this movie, I would say it was probably a slight bit too much fan service. It's a fine line to walk with fan service, right? And they lean just a little over too much with that, between stuff going on with the heroes, like conversation between three specific people. If you know what I'm talking about, you know, and everything else like that. It's just a little too much. The lab scene, when they're doing all of the thing, that doesn't really help with anything except for expanding on the fan service. They could have easily taken that out and saved 10 minutes in a movie run, and it wouldn't have hurt the story at all. It's honestly one of the few aspects, after coming back and thinking about it again and again, that I wasn't a huge fan in the movie. Outside of that, I love, and this is like nitpicky, by the way.
Oh, for sure. And I admitted that, like, I absolutely love and adore this movie. And, you know, I think that argument, though, kind of ties into just the bigger thing that I'm saying. You know, they lean so heavy in the fan service that, you know, again, everyone that grew up with this is expecting it. And so we are eating it up, and it is perfect. Exactly what it's the movie that we needed and wanted.
Well, to go on with that before you go on, there's one other thing I wanted to bring up. Is this movie, more than really any of the other ones, also is training the viewers to be going out there to watch other stuff, okay, to expand on the knowledge. If there's a question you had from something you're watching when it comes to a Marvel movie, to go out and look for it, whether it's a comic book or another movie or series. They're training us to do that now more than ever, because all of the future endeavors that we're having when it comes to movies, in literally all of the next runs for the Marvel fourth stage that they're doing, are all ones that are tying in with their Disney Plus stuff, right? So the next one that they're doing, the big one, is Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, right? You can see it in the trailers right then and there. He goes up to Wanda as Wanda's clipping away at like this tree, and she starts apologizing for the events that happened in Westview. And he's like, I'm not here to talk about Westview. And that is definitely, if you know, you know, if you don't, you don't. And that's irrelevant to WandaVision, right? The next big bad for stage 4 is going to be Kang the Conqueror, which, if you want to know how Kang came to be in this universe and everything that happened with that, you got to go watch Loki. This is a training that they're doing for us. I mean, hell, the Marvels, Captain Marvel 2 is going to have Monica Rambeau from WandaVision and Miss Marvel from her own show on Disney Plus in the movie. So they're getting away from spending time to do a ton of backstory in a movie and building that backstory in a series to then allow them to tell a great story in a movie, which I think is a fantastic way of telling a medium. It's really causing it to have additional acts or one big run, like an event, right? So let's say that we were doing this with DC. You can get the first 20 issues of Batman telling his backstory, where he went, how his parents died, and everything else like that, all done really fast in a series. And then you go and do Longest Night or Year One as a movie, right there, a big event that happened in his life right then. And then you can go back to a series and showing other small aspects of like how you get to this, to build to that big event, right? CW does crossovers right now with their shows. It's essentially doing the same thing. They have the day-to-day nonsense building to their crossovers, and their crossovers are 3 to 5 episodes long. So they're essentially a movie of what's going on as a big event. And Marvel's doing that now with their movies. This movie is training us to do that if we weren't already a comic book reader used to that.
I can see what you're saying. So let's turn it over then to the audience. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that things like this are a good thing? That it's training us for a different type of intaking entertainment mediums? Or do you think that this is going to struggle with what my concern was, with future generations being able to just jump in and watch and enjoy? What are your thoughts? Is there any critiques that you have of the movie? Anything that you liked that you don't like? Anything that you agree about what we said or disagree? Please let us know. We would love to hear from you. Hit us up on our social media, facebook.com/BeHeroMedia, Instagram.com/BeHeroMedia.
At Twitter at BeHeroMedia, and everything that is BeHeroMedia at BeHeroMedia.com, as well as hit the subscribe button here while you're dropping a comment in, and hit that notification bell so you know the next time we drop any great content here.
That's right. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. We love you. Brian, do you have anything else before we go?
Just real quick. This last year of 2021 and 2020 has been hell, but it also has allowed us to do this. So I want to start off by thanking you guys for letting us do this with you. This last 2 years has had a lot of heartache, but I hope that we've given you guys a lot of joy with what we do here and the bickering we have between us. So thank you guys. I'm excited to see what this next year brings for us. And the last thought I have is, Tom, did you say that for Christmas you had Spider-Man drop his organic web all over your face on Christmas?
No.
I swear that's what I heard. You said Santa come along, you had Santa drop his organic web all over you.
I said in my household, Santa didn't come to visit. Spider-Man came to visit and left.
That's what I heard. Spider-Man came.
Oh, God.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And as always, go out there and be a hero.
On. Be a hero.
Be a hero, man. New tagline.
New tagline. That's right.
So, guys, as always, go out there and be a hero.